Last year, Disney released their short Get a Horse in Front of Frozen. It's important to note that there was a lot of hype going into this one. The folks at Disney made it seem as if they were uncovering lost animation and dialogue recorded for an unfinished short in the late 1920s, specifically the time when Ub Iwerks was still working at Disney. I was skeptical since a lot of the artwork they revealed seemed too well preserved to be considered old. It was put to rest when the early screenings and a clip they released on their YouTube page seemed to show that it's their latest short incorporating a new technique. This isn't anything new. Traditionally, Disney Animation would experiment with new techniques that would progress the art of their new features. So you could say I was excited to see what they would come up with, especially since their last animated short Paperman I felt was a charming little experiment in itself. With Get a Horse, you had the short starting off as your traditional rubber hose era Mickey, right down to the repeated motions, pinholes, and 16mm box. However, as soon as Pegleg Pete throws Horace Horsecollar and Mickey at the screen, I hope I'm not losing you with the name of these characters, and this is where the cartoon is revealed to be exactly that, a cartoon being viewed in a computer animated setting where Mickey literally breaks the fourth wall. From there on, it's complete mixed media mayhem. They play around with the tropes of hand-drawn animation, being in a movie theater, and a little bit at 3D, pointing out at the screen. At first this bothered me, mostly because at that point it felt less like a theatrical short and more like an attraction you'd find at Disney World, which also brought up an interesting point. If the studio was ceasing to make any more hand-drawn features, then what are they going to make out of this? Like I mentioned before, shorts like Paperman went a step ahead and tried to give computer animation a hand-drawn feeling. I guess in that respect, having 2D characters turning into 3D was probably done to make computer animation capture the charm of Rubber Hose, which truth be told was a little compromising. At times it felt like the computer animation had to take a step backwards while the hand-drawn animation had to stay in tune with the rendered models, and both techniques had their own differences and benefits. While they did incorporate a lot of Iwerks' trademarks like the action lines and moving perspective shots, however, what makes Iwerks one of my favorite animators is not judged on how well he follows to traditional principles of animation, but because he was willing to try new things for the sake of good humor. If you look back at a lot of his earliest shorts, he was always more of a draftsman than a great artist per se. However, with his good sense of timing making up for these shortcomings, if anything, he's considered a mechanic of animation because of this, and not the rumor that he took apart a car and put it back together functioning. With Get a Horse, I didn't feel they really accomplished that, especially since it was supposed to invoke that sense of nostalgia. Now I could go ahead and nitpick some more, but I did feel as if the animators of Get a Horse did do something right that makes me appreciate what it attempts to do. For example, the gag where Mickey tortures Pete through playing with the screen got the theater I was in roaring with laughter, and a lot of it was the old slapstick animation that was done years ago, so it did feel cathartic to see kids today enjoy the old stuff for what it is and not having to be cutting edge to be enjoyed. I also like hearing audio from the old shorts that I could recognize where it was taken from, specifically from Bill Bletcher as Pete and Walt Disney as Mickey Mouse.
Yeah? Yeah? It's you! It's you! I used to have a little cat once.
So while I don't consider this to be one of my favorite Mickey Mouse shorts, I can still appreciate what it was going for, enough to recommend it for anybody who loves this character or animation in general. It may be one step back, but an attempt at making way for the future.